Hi everyone, I'm Ben, and this is the Board Game Blueprint. This week, we're going to take some time to talk about the current state of affairs regarding the board game industry, at least a few of my own musings and observations at the very least that might be worth investigating or taking a closer look at. So let's jump on over to the screens next door and see what we have in the store. Boy, oh boy, has not being able to see people physically put a damper on a few things related to board game playing. I don't have to tell you twice in that so many events have unfortunately been canceled, but there have been quite a few motions to still keep them going, as we've seen with things like Gen Con Online, even Spiel Digital that is happening this current weekend, if I recall, and a few other of our local conventions happening, like the Shucks convention that also just happened. From what I gather, these events feel very distant to say the least, but game playing is still live and happening from the comfort of our own homes. I've been at Gen Con Online and actually got to volunteer with the company where some of us were all joking that we could wake up in our beds, walk over to our laptops, still in our pajama bottoms, get to a game, and then also go to the bathroom or pick up some food without having to wait for an extra 20 or 30 minutes. For those who have been able to make the conventions, the vendor areas, from what I understand, are also a little bit different. As far as I know, kind of digital spaces are opened up so that people can visit and say hello to the creators at a much less breakneck pace than we're maybe normally accustomed to. But one super consistent or common denominator across kind of this entire online thing is chat rooms or channels that we can all communicate by voice and sometimes by video even. One of the most popular by far is Discord, and the neat thing about that is it's almost unlimited number of servers and whatnot that it can host, and guests as well. Of course, I've never done more than 100 people at any given time, let alone more than 20 people, but the capacity to support and host anything like this is pretty fantastic and super useful again for getting some of that interpersonal interaction that we're all craving a little bit right now. Additionally, Zoom chats, Google Meet, and Skype are all, I think, picking up pretty well, and we're maybe seeing a pivot to further game designs that can support that. I know social media is still pretty big, and one of the companies that I've noticed, AEG, is hosting these live playthroughs with designers and such almost every day. The fun thing about that is, again, if the games can support it, being able to play with them from home and still getting our gaming fix in. Speaking of AEG, I know that they've started their own little Facebook group for designers like ourselves and host 1 or 2 different kinds of prompts for design at a pretty regular pace. So despite the gap between pitches and whatnot, a shift, of getting them to happen even despite all things is definitely still going strong. Another cool thing about pitching is the Pitch Project, which is hosted by Jay Cormier and I believe, Senfeng Lim, who started this whole thing to gather publishers and designers together again. Normally, I think during these convention times, people will arrange meetings or schedule appointments that they can present these games up front. But now, because that isn't quite as possible, finding these other routes is just really fascinating and really encouraging, I would say, about how adaptive the community has been and continues to show itself. Now, with all these different pitches, it of course helped to have something on the table space available. And that's sort of where things like Tabletop Simulator, Tabletopia, Roll20, and other kinds of web sort of apps allow for that to happen. And I will be the first to say, super dubious about the entire thing about porting a game on digitally, and now I can't get enough. Truth be told, I just made my own physical prototype of a game that I had been workshopping online, digitally, virtually, through Tabletop Simulator, and it was a chore. I forgot how long it actually took to paper cut out the cards and whatnot by hand, luckily using a paper cutter, but just that whole idea of interfacing with the components again by fingers digitally was something to be said. but you can absolutely still get together with your friends and family for more games, including places like Board Game Arena and the aforementioned ones too. The nice thing as well about a lot of this digital stuff is that setup is completely gone. And just as we kind of prefaced with the conventions, you don't have to worry about hotel stay or travel costs or anything like that. You can just schedule a time, make sure that the computers are running smoothly and you get all the updates, but then just immediately start playing. And so much of the games are automated now too, which helps support getting into the fun so much faster. This entire time that I've been home, at least, I have been playtesting online, and I think that is definitely going to be a very prevalent part of my process when this is all said and done. Another up-and-coming kind of platform that I got to play around in is called Sovereignty, and it's just super neat to see all these sorts of companies come in together to bring people together, because that's kind of the only way that we can at this time. Lately, morale has definitely been low, but I have to thank Digital Tabletop to get me through. Many board game stores clearly have been affected due to low kinds of occupancy and such, but there may be still a silver lining. I actually spoke with a store owner, Bob Siegold of Tower Games in Minneapolis, and he noted that all things considered, though he was hit a little hard, he's been able to offer up a few different opportunities than he ever would have thought of before. In fact, curbside pickup is now a thing that he's decided will continue forward as a service to sort of create a almost drive-through experience for players and gamers who are passing through the area. And there we have a few of the things that I've noticed or seen thus far since the beginning of the year or so, and maybe a few things about where I think the industry is headed in the future. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button, and click that bell icon so that you can be notified about when the next video goes up. As always, I'm Ben. This has been another episode of the Board Game Blueprint, and together, let's build something great.